Welcome to Al Jazeera. Rebel soldiers fighting government troops in the Democratic Republic of Congo have been told to put down their weapons. A summit of regional leaders in Uganda has just issued a decree telling the group, known as M23, to stop the fighting. But getting that message through might be difficult because none of the rebels were at the meeting, and neither was one of the men accused of backing them, the Rwandan President Paul Kagame. He said he had a prior arrangement and sent his foreign minister to Uganda instead. Well, let's take a quick look now at some of the key points in that plan. It urges the DRC government to listen to the grievances of the M23 rebel group. It also calls on the rebels to halt their current offensive and stop expanding the war. And it urges them to get out of Goma and its airport, creating a 20-kilometre neutral zone around the city. Well, our correspondent Peter Grester is at those talks in Kampala. We'll hear from him in just a moment. Harry Matassa is in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa, and Nazanin Mashiri is travelling with the rebels and is now in Goma. That's the regional capital in eastern DRC. But let's first go to Peter Grester, who is there in Kampala. Peter, so the delegates have now agreed this deal. What more do we know about it?
Well, as you say, the key to the deal is really it's a twofold agreement. The main point of it is that M23, or the Congolese government rather, is to listen to M23 and address their grievances. And the second part is that M23 is to withdraw from Goma, pull back to positions 20 kilometres to the north of the city. It's not really clear whether they will be able to, whether they will honour that agreement. M23 wasn't here, they weren't directly involved. But officials clearly believe that it is an agreement that is going to stick. A lot of the people that we've been speaking to say that this agreement is one that they are confident will make a difference. This is what they're describing as a breakthrough.
And Peter, M23 were not officially represented at the meeting, so how are they likely to respond to those conditions in the deal?
Very difficult to know. I think my colleague Nazanin Mashiri has been speaking to them, but certainly there is some speculation here as to just how involved M23 was in these talks, whether in fact there was communication with them, and whether or not they are actually behind this deal. Remember that in the past M23 has made advances into areas of Congo where they have been where there's been considerable international condemnation, not the least from this particular group, the International Conference on the Great Lakes region, the ICGLR, which is that grouping of regional states that's been meeting here. They've also condemned them, and they've also called on M23 to pull back. M23 simply ignored that and continued fighting on. So whether this will make a difference, really, we will have to wait and see. Now, I was, I'm afraid, due to talk to the Rwandan Foreign Minister, Louise Moushikabo. She has just stepped away. We're hoping to bring her to you shortly, but Darren, I'm afraid we're just waiting for her for the moment, so you'll have to bear with us. All
right, Peter Grester then, Kampala. Peter, if so, we'll come back to you a little bit later if we can. Let's put that key question then to Nazanin Mashiri, who's travelling with the rebels in Goma. Nazanin, so how are the rebels then likely to respond to that deal that's been agreed by regional leaders in the Ugandan capital?
Well, we have just had a word with the military spokesperson for the rebels, Colonel Vianney Kazarama, who is based here in Goma, and he dismissed what is happening in Kampala. He said that we don't want an 8-point plan. What we want is very simple. We want to sit down and we want to negotiate directly with the president of the DRC, Joseph Kabila. Now, he and other M23 members that we have spoken to in the time that we've been here have been very clear on this point. They are not going to withdraw from Goma until they can sit down and negotiate, even though what's come out of Kampala is a possible concession to the demands, or some of the demands, of M23. M23 are very much embedded here in Goma and in the surrounding areas. They have a strong base now, which we saw earlier today in Sake, which is 20 kilometers away. They also have strongholds all around the hills, close to the area known as Masisi as well, which is extremely important to M23. A lot of the leaders of M23 have land there, which was taken away from them by the Congolese government. So for now, they are staying put.
All right, Nazanin Mashiri there in Goma, in the DR Congo. Nazanin, thank you for that. Let's cross over to Hara Matassa. She's in the Congolese capital, Kinshasa. Hara, the rebels had threatened to advance to Kinshasa. That's something that people there must be worried about.
Yes, they are very worried because they know it can happen. Back in 1998, the rebels managed to make it to the capital. So while people aren't panicking as such, they are starting to talk about what they could do in case it does happen. For example, people are saying maybe it's now time to make sure they have enough food and also talk about things like fuel, for example. Darren?
Haru, just quickly, so news about that deal struck in Kampala. How is that likely now to go down in Kinshasa, where you are?
Well, many people will be relieved, but remember the people of the DRC have been through this before. In 2009, the M23 rebels signed a peace deal with the government. They were integrated into the national army. They then left saying that they weren't paid, they were being badly treated. They went back into the bush and started fighting. And then also, people here are also very much aware that signing a piece of paper in Uganda won't just wipe away the mistrust that still exists between the rebels and the government. Darren?
All right, Hara Matassa there in Kinshasa. Hara, thank you. All right, let's cross back now to the Ugandan capital, Kampala, and Peter Grester. Peter, over to you.
Thanks very much, Darren. Well, as I mentioned earlier, we do have the Rwandan Foreign Minister, Louise Mushikiwabo. Minister, obviously the thing that everyone is asking is whether or what makes you so confident that the M23 will abide by this agreement, particularly because they're not here?
Well, I think for us, the three countries that have basically worked out this agreement, we were here in Kampala just a few days ago. We have very knowledgeable heads of state who have been at war, who have made peace, who understand conflict, who also know the two parties very well. So we have no reason to think that neither the M23 nor the government of the DRC would not be interested in peace at this time.
But Minister, we've been here before. M23, when they started their advance, there was a similar meeting here in Kampala with heads of state. They all condemned M23, they all called on M23 to pull back, and they didn't. They've continued to advance, and now they're in Goma. Why should this time be any different?
Perhaps the last part of your question, which is Goma. That's the key word at this point. When Goma was captured, it became very clear to everybody that this has to stop. The president of Rwanda, my president, took the initiative to get in touch with his counterpart in the DRC. Uganda and Rwanda and DRC started talking. And also remember, this conflict has to end not just for the DRC but for my country as well. So we are very interested and we will pursue peace at all costs.
Minister, I know you've been through this before, but I do have to ask you, there is still a lot of speculation. There's still not so much speculation, but allegations that Rwanda is involved, and there are people who are suggesting that the reason you're so confident is because Rwanda is issuing the orders. What's going on?
Well, I think people need to get serious. Either Rwanda is involved or Rwanda is not involved. So when we make peace, we are blamed. When we don't make peace, we are blamed. So I think let's be at least sensitive to the suffering of the people of the Eastern DRC. We are not here just for some political deals. We are here because the populations of Eastern DRC, many of them very much close to Rwanda. We have blood ties, we have business ties, we have neighbors who haven't really had a break in the last 18 years. So the first chance we got to find the right balance between interests of both parties, we seized that chance, and I think we should move on now.
Minister, this agreement doesn't really deal with the root causes of the problem. This agreement simply asks M23 to go back to positions that it held before Goma fell. We're really no further forward than we were before this latest operation.
Of course we are much further. Again, where are we today and where have we been since April? A lot has happened. Mostly, and I'm not sparing the international community for this. We're very interested in remaining stuck in accusations, in allegations, and forgetting that whatever blame we apportion, we have to move on to a solution. So, and I think when we say we, I hope it's not just the DRC and Uganda and Rwanda, it's all of us who have a responsibility for peace in the Congo. Again, and Rwanda has said this many times, this conflict is not new. It comes from another conflict that was also mismanaged. So I think to really reach a resolution of this conflict, there has to be a lot of goodwill, there has to be seriousness, but there has to be a measure of responsibility from everybody.
Okay, Minister, thank you very much. Louise
Mushikiwabo,
Foreign Minister of Rwanda. We will find out in the next 48 hours whether or not this agreement will stick. That's the time that M23 has to pull back from Goma.
All right, Peter Grester there in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. Peter, thank you.